start webinar and we'll get this going for everybody, okay?
Okay. Thanks, David.
All right, thank you all. Have a great meeting.
Good morning, everyone. This is Daisy Glassburn, Chair of the Board of Real Estate Appraisers. Today is July 10th, and the time is 9:04 a.m. I now call the public meeting to order and ask that the division director conduct roll call.
Daisy Glassburn.
Here.
Brent Goff.
Here.
Rob Stilo.
Here.
Darius Wise.
Here.
Valerie Bartel.
Here.
Clint Sealer is missing today. You have a quorum. And before you launch into your business, how about we do an introduction of your newest board member, which is Valerie Bartel. Do you want to introduce yourself, Valerie, and let the board know your background?
So, yeah, my name is Valerie Bartel. I live in Longmont, Colorado. I am a certified general appraiser. I specialize in eminent domain appraisal. I've been a licensed appraiser for about 6 years now. Before that, I was a licensed broker. I am a Colorado native, went to school at DU and also Metro State. So I'm glad to be here on the board.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Valerie.
Yeah, welcome, Valerie.
Thanks.
David, did you want to go over the education piece?
Thank you very much. For members of the public, if you are seeking continuing education credit for today's meeting, we're going to launch a poll here in just a moment. If the meeting lasts for the required duration, a licensee may receive continuing education continuing education credit for attendance at this meeting, although you must attend for the required duration. If you have difficulties completing this poll, please deliver an email to myself at david.donnelly@state.co.us. That's DONNELLY is my last name to obtain that credit. Thank you for that. And with that, Madam Chair, as the licensees are answering the poll questions, I'll pass control of the meeting back to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next item is the approval of the minutes from our May 1st, 2025 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 1st, 2025?
This is Brent Goff. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 2025.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Darius, correct?
Yes, Darius.
Okay, great. Any discussion? All righty, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. And the motion passes. Next is Attorney General matters. And this is Daisy Glassburn. It's July 10th, 2025, and the time is 9:07, and I move that the board enter executive session under Colorado Revised Statute Section 246402 3A2 to receive legal advice on specific legal questions concerning Board Rules 11.3 and 13.4. Do I have a second?
This is Rob. I second that.
All righty. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, we have 5 in favor. We'll move to executive session. Okay, this is Daisy Glassburn. The time is 9:49. And the board is back in open session. In terms of, do we have everyone here?
Yes, Daisy, I'm here as well.
Okay, good. In terms of the Attorney General matters with Board Rule 11.3, is there any discussion on that? Does somebody want to make a motion? I'll make a motion. This is Daisy Glassburn, and I move that there be a review of Board Rule 11.3 and revised for clarification.
I'll second. This is
Let's see, who was
Darius
that?
Wise. I'll second.
Thanks, Darius. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. And the motion passes. The next item is discussion for Board Rule 13.4. Brent, did you want to
Yeah. I'd
discuss
like to-
anything on that?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the executive director for the board issue a education piece discussing Board Rule 13.4 and the importance of the interview process during a complaint, specifically how the board members evaluate the discussion with the investigator, and also what the complainant would expect during the interview as far as some of the questions.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Rob. I second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. And the motion passes. The next item on the agenda looks like policy matters. And the first item is selection of leadership. Marcia, do you want to?
So, board members, it's that time for you to pick a chair and a vice chair. Knowing that Daisy will, if she will finish out this meeting as the chair, regardless of what the vote is. So feel free to nominate.
This is
Marcia.
board member Brent Goff. I'd like to nominate Daisy Glassburn for chair of the Colorado Board of Real Estate Appraisers.
This is Rob. I second that. I think you're doing a great job, Daisy.
Yeah, you guys beat me to it. That was my question. Can she serve another term?
Yes, she can.
Yeah, Daisy, you've been phenomenal in my short time with the board. I would. There's not a third, but I'm going to third it anyway.
That's very nice of you all. All right, well, I have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, the motion passes. And then we need the vice chair, correct, Marcia?
Correct.
Would someone like to make a motion?
This is Darius Wise. So our vice chair hasn't been. So remind me who our vice chair is.
It's
It's
Rob.
Rob.
Okay, Rob, you're our vice chair. Great. That's easy. I nominate Rob to continue going.
I
This is-
second that.
I third that.
Thanks.
All righty. If there's no further discussion on that, we can take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. And the motion passes. Let's see here. Do we need to go through anything with the board rules in this section, Marcia?
Now, I think we're clear on what you guys want to do with those two rules. So your next item is, do you have anything that you would like placed on your September meeting agenda? I expect that the appraisal subcommittee will probably be at that meeting because we're up for audit this year. It's any day now, I should be getting notification that I need to start compiling information for them. So if you want something put on your agenda, just be aware that our federal regulators will likely be at that meeting.
Okay.
So, Marcia, this is Brent. I heard that we were going to try to have an in-person meeting maybe next year in Grand Junction. I'd like to make sure the meeting's at least 2 hours and invite the appraisers in that town, possibly Grand Junction, if they're going to attend to get some continuing education. If we could talk about the agenda, or maybe try to make sure it's at least 2 hours to make it worth their time.
I agree. So just to let the board know, we have confirmed space, and we will be doing your in-person meeting in Grand Junction in June of next year. We'll have back-to-back meetings. We're going to have, I think, the Real Estate Commission on a Tuesday and then you guys on a Wednesday. And this helps us to kind of reduce the cost of staff going over there. But we'll send out meeting information to you all in advance because this is going to rotate one of your meetings out of your normal cycle. And we'll do some advertising that it's an in-person meeting so that people in that area will get the benefit of being able to attend an in-person meeting. So I think having the attendance and it being in person, I think we can probably hit the 2 hour mark as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. The next item then is the citizen participation period. Any person may bring concerns about matters not on the agenda before the board. Speakers are asked to limit remarks to 2 minutes unless granted more time. The board may also allow public comment on any agenda items. Is there anyone signed up to speak?
Madam Chair, no one has signed up in advance. However, if there are any members of the public that have any topics that they would like to address with the commission, with the board, there is a raise hand icon that you can locate in the Zoom tools menu. If you click the raise hand icon, that will send a message to me to allow you to unmute you, and then you would be able to address the board. So if there is anyone at this time, please select that raise hand icon and we can acknowledge. Board members, if we can just give it a minute, a few seconds here. Not seeing any hands at this time though. All right, seeing none. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thanks, David. Next, we'll move into complaint investigations. Marcia?
All right.
It's
Good
actually
morning,
going to be
board
Gary.
members.
Oh, Garrett, sorry about that.
No problem. The first complaint matter A is number 2025102.
There were 3 appraisal reports provided by the complainant. The respondent was being considered for the complainant's appraiser panel, but was denied after their reviewer had identified several quality concerns and potential use PAP violations. These allegations included issues with the selection of comparable sales, lack of adjustment support, as well as documented support in the cost approach. In reviewing the report and work file, there appeared to have been potential use PAP violations of the scope of work rule, ethics rule, competency rule, record keeping rule, and multiple violations of standard rules 1 and 2, as well as board rules and state statutes. The respondent appeared to have inadequately researched, analyzed, and documented the neighborhood market area and the current market conditions. And the report did not contain the specific criteria used in determining comparable properties, nor was there sufficient commentary concerning the selection of the comparable sales. There was insufficient commentary and documented support for the adjustments in the sales comparison approach. In the cost approach, there was an overall lack of analysis and documented support for the site value, and the work file support did not correspond with the reproduction and replacement costs on the report. Additionally, it did not appear the income approach was ever seriously considered. Finally, it appeared that 2 of the 3 reports may have been appraised to a predetermined value, the contract price. Possible violations include 1210-613-1B, 1210-613-1G, ethics rule, competency rule, scope of work rule, record keeping rule, as well as standard rules 1 and 2 as identified. Disciplinary recommendation includes diversion, work product review of 4 appraisals in 2 months, coursework to include residential sales comparison and income approaches, residential report writing and case studies, comparative analysis and/or supporting adjustments, national use PAP update course, and reliable record keeping. Fine of $1,000. And Investigator Walker is here to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Walker? Yeah, this is Brett Goff. I have a question. I was reading the response from the attorney for the complainant, and they alleged that the complaint was submitted to the board because it was retaliation for being removed from the appraiser panel. If there's any truth to that, would that be something that the complainant could file separately, or is that just a business decision that is a private dispute?
If the respondent wanted to file a complaint, that would be completely up to them, and we would take a look at it. But there's certainly nothing that prohibits anyone with a legitimate complaint from filing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that would be a separate issue.
It would be a separate issue. Basically, we're looking for use PAP compliance.
Okay. Thank you.
Do I have a motion for complaint number 2025-102? I'll make the motion that the staff recommendations for complaint number 2025-102 be accepted. Is there a second?
I can second.
Thanks, Valerie. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of accepting the staff recommendations for complaint 2025-102, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion passes. The next complaint is 2025-382. Karen?
That's correct. It's complaint matter B 2025-382. The complaint was filed by a bank that had ordered an appraisal completed by the respondent. Complainant allegations which appeared to have merit included failure to appropriately describe the subject site, improvements, and condition, inappropriate comparable sales selection, and inappropriate adjustments. In reviewing the report and work file, there appeared to have been potential USPAP violations of the scope of work rule, ethics rule, competency rule, record-keeping rule, and multiple violations of standard rules 1 and 2, as well as board rules and state statutes. The respondent appeared to have inadequately researched, analyzed, and documented the neighborhood market area and the current market conditions. The report did not contain the specific criteria used to determine comparable properties, nor was there sufficient commentary concerning the selection of the comparable sales. There was insufficient commentary and documented support for the adjustments in the sales comparison approach. And in the cost approach, there was a lack of documented analysis or support for the site value, and there was no support for the cost data. Additionally, it did not appear the income approach was ever considered. Possible violations include 1210-613-1B, 1210-613-1G, the ethics rule, competency rule, scope of work rule, record-keeping rule, and standard rules 1 and 2 as identified. Disciplinary recommendation includes diversion, coursework in residential sales comparison and income approaches, comparative analysis and or supporting adjustments, national USPAP update course, complex properties, the odd side of appraisal, the cost approach, and reliable record keeping, as well as a work product review of 4 appraisals in 2 months and a fine of $1,000. And again, Investigator Walker is here to answer your questions.
Mr. Walker, I noticed that the appraiser used an inappropriate license title abbreviation. Is that common?
It's fairly common, and so we see that a lot. I think generally we try to focus on the more pressing issues, and
Sure.
I think there's certainly more pressing issues with this report.
Is it clear to the complainant that he shouldn't do that anymore?
I believe it has been made clear to him.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's a little jot and tittle, but just going forward, part of this could be educational for him to use the appropriate abbreviations in Board Rule 12.8. So.
Brent, I'm having a bit of trouble hearing you clearly.
Okay.
It just seems quiet.
I'll try to speak up. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's just
Right.
the room you're in is echoey, Brent, is probably my guess.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that it could be educational. And I know it seems like a little jot and tittle, but it is Board Rule 12.8. And we want our licensees to be clear about what they are and what title they hold when they pen their appraisals. So the appropriate license title should be on each appraisal. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Hey, Rob, this is Rob Stylo. Hey, did the appraiser complete the report as is and then was convinced to change it to subject to? Was there another
That was a
copy of
question I
this
had as well.
report?
I think that was initial. I believe there was an earlier initial that was a part of a revision request.
Okay.
Because I think that the person noticed that there were features of the property that weren't completed with potential health and safety issues. So I believe that's when they requested additional information.
Okay. But as is, the report was given value for the unfinished edition?
It was.
Okay.
So I think the $1,000 fine is appropriate, given the context that there was a previous board action of a $500 fine. Normally I would think that that would be pretty heavy, but there is prior disciplinary actions with this licensee. So I think that it's appropriate.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion on complaint number 2025-382, matter B?
Yeah, this is Brent Goff. I'll make the motion that we accept the staff recommendations for complaint number 2025-382.
I'll second Darius
Okay.
Wise.
Great, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All those opposed say no. The motion passes. Next item is item C, complaint number 2025-605.
And before we get started, I don't know if this is the right part for me to speak in, but I have to recuse myself from this one, just because I'm associated or I've worked in the past with this person.
Okay, Marcia, what does she need to do in terms of that?
So Valerie, if you want to shut off your camera and mute yourself, and we will text you when to come back.
All right, very good. Thank you.
All right, are we ready to proceed on this one?
Yes, go ahead, Garrett.
All right, this is complaint matter C 2025-605. The respondent failed to notify the division of his guilty plea to a class M2 misdemeanor, offering a false instrument for recording in the second degree. And within the report, you saw that there was a restitution hearing that had been scheduled. An update to that report is that the judge signed a motion to vacate restitution on June 3rd, and no restitution is required, and the respondent is current on court cost payment plan. Possible violations include 1210-613-1B, 1210-613-1K, and Rule 13.7, and we do not have a disciplinary recommendation for you.
Okay, in terms of questions then, would it be directed to you, Garrett, then, or?
If you have a question about the disciplinary recommendation, otherwise, Investigator Walker is still here to answer any of your questions about this case.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think for me, Garrett, just around the lack of disciplinary recommendation, is there a reason why that's not in play, or?
Well, we can offer a disciplinary recommendation of a small fine for the violation and an additional one for lack of reporting. In this case, because of the underlying circumstances involved in the case and the financial aspect, we were hoping that you would provide a disciplinary recommendation based on your discussion today.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the result of the actions taken by the state were discipline enough for me as an appraiser. I mean, not notifying the board was the violation, right? So I think that's a pretty hefty dues paid. I don't know if we send out a warning, hey, you have to notify the board, but a slight oversight when you're dealing with a criminal charge.
Rob, I'm assuming that in the process of the whole investigation, there was clear notice that's a rule, correct?
He was notified once we found out of the conviction. Generally, I think someone in the division kind of monitors court proceedings, and just looking for licensees is how we do it. Otherwise, generally, people just by statute they're required to notify us of any court action, significant court
But do you
action.
feel like the respondent understands that after the complaint that he needs to notify that
I would certainly hope so.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion regarding this complaint?
And
Rob,
board members, I would just like to point out that statute 1210-613 was a violation in regards to the actual circumstances. So in addition to the failure to notify, we did have the 1210-613 that would address the actual behavior and the as described in the underlying circumstances.
that's helpful. Thanks, Garrett. Vice Chair, do you want to make the motion?
I would motion a minimal fine and lesson learned.
So we
I have
could
a
do.
motion. Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Gary.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just, we could do a $250 violation for the 1210-613 1K, and then 250 for Rule 13.7 for a total of $500.
Rob, real quick, you were saying warning initially. Are you backing off of that?
Well, I just wanted them to make sure they understood the rule. I mean, that's, the rule states petty offenses, stuff like that don't get reported. So there is that gray area.
Yeah.
I know this wasn't a petty offense, but the warning would be, hey, I understand the rule now. If I get in trouble, I have to report it. Pay the minimum fine and go about business.
So
Possibly a warning letter in addition to the fine. Is that what you're saying, Rob?
No, based on what Mr. Walker said, he understands the significance of reporting it. So that would be enough warning.
I was in favor of a warning letter along with a small fine. Just a short letter of admonition. It's one of the arrows in our quiver to discipline, and it's just instructing them that this is the statute you violated. Please understand that this statute is there for a reason. We want our licensees to notify promptly if they have an adverse court action, and then it doesn't have to be a long letter, but it should be instructive and letting them know that what they violated, and a short admonition to that effect.
So board
No.
members oh, sorry.
Yeah, and I like a small fine as well.
So just to be clear, it's not just the failure to report. The offense itself is a violation of your statutes, because you can look at any criminal conviction that may also impact, like if they were an applicant, you would be seeing this person's application based on this conviction. So the conviction itself is a violation of the license law, and then the failure to report is a separate violation. I also wanted to let you know you can't do a fine and just a warning letter. So if you do a fine, it's got to be a stipulated agreement, either a stipulation for diversion or a stipulation in final agency order.
Rob, is there a way can you summarize the nature of the conviction, or is that able to be discussed in a public meeting?
I think so, because we certainly won't make his the person's name public. Basically, what it sounds like is, and I'm getting this mainly from the police report that was found. What it sounded like, the respondent basically potentially took financial advantage of an older person by taking money out of his accounts. I know at one point, and actually this was not in the police report, the actual respondent volunteered the information. He actually went to the Arapahoe County courthouse and attempted to change the title of the victim's house into his son's name. He wasn't able to do that because the clerk at Arapahoe County requested a power of attorney, which he did not have. So that's kind of like additional background for this.
And
Yeah, that's
Rob,
great. Thanks, Rob.
that was the actions that led to the actual offense identified of offering a false instrument for recording in the second degree. Is that right?
I'm not exactly sure because that was part of the plea agreement, and we didn't get that sort of detailed information from the court. I think that is kind of non-public, but he did accept a plea to that particular one, which I think there was probably some sort of negotiated process in that because the initial charges had nothing to do with any sort of, or directly related to any sort of documents.
So board members, you could find specific to that conduct in association with 12-10-613. And then, as I stated, additionally for the failure to notify.
Rob, do you want to reframe the motion? Feels like we're a little bit.
So my motion would be to a stipulation for diversion and a fine on the 12-10-613. The
Fine.
250.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Sorry, just a point of clarification, Rob. Stylo, you said 613. Do you mean 1B or 1K? So 1B is the rule violation for not reporting. 1K is the underlying criminal conduct.
The 1K.
1K. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion passes. Did we want to get Valerie back before we move forward?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Hi, Daisy, it's Doreen. I have texted Valerie.
Okay, great. We'll give her here a minute or two.
board members, do you want to take a 5-minute break while we get Valerie back?
Sure.
Sure, that sounds
Yes.
good.
Sounds good.
Thanks. see a couple people. Do we have everybody back yet?
Yep.
It looks like it.
All right, great. Just note the time, I guess, that we are back and it is 10:30. All right, the next item on the agenda is complaint matter D, number 2025-201.
Yes, complaint matter D. On or about February 6, 2025, the Colorado Division of Real Estate was notified that the Appraisal Subcommittee's National Registry indicated the respondent's Florida appraiser's license credential was revoked in August of 2024. Colorado Division of Real Estate has no record of the respondent reporting the discipline to BOREA. An update to this one is that on June 26, 2025, the respondent provided a certificate showing that their Florida appraiser license credential had been reinstated on the same day. This information was verified by division staff on the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation website. Possible violations include 1210-613-1B, 1210-613-1I, and Rule 13.7. And board members, because the Florida action originated from discipline resulting from previous action here in Colorado with the BOREA board, it appears that this matter has now come full circle. And in order to close that loop, our recommendation is simply a letter of concern, reminding the licensee of their obligation to report and then closing the matter. And Investigator Wentz is here to answer your questions.
Thanks, Garrett.
Yeah.
There's no questions. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I would make a motion to follow the recommendations on this one.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is
It's
Brett.
Rob. I
I'll
second.
second it.
I think I heard Brent and Rob second that.
That's
Go
great.
ahead, Rob. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for complaint to accept the staff recommendation for the letter of concern for matter D, complaint 2025-201. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion passes, and we will move on to complaint matter E.
Final complaint matter is complaint matter E, 2024-2027. The complaint and investigation determined the respondent signed each of the URAR reports, certifying they completed a visual inspection of the properties when they did not personally inspect the properties. The respondent acknowledged that all of the subject site inspections, measurements, subject photos, and comparable photos were taken by the respondent's trainee. In all three reports, it appears that little, if any, support for the adjustments in the sales comparison approach to value. These adjustments seem to be simply stated, and the lack of work file documentation support for some of the respondent's adjustments made it difficult to determine if an appropriate level of research was performed. Additionally, the respondent's work file did not have any data and did not sufficiently identify methodologies utilized for the allocation method referenced as support for the opinion of site value. The respondent was unable to provide a meaningful explanation for the exclusion of the income approach value. In reviewing the report and work file, there appeared to have been potential use-PAP violations of the record-keeping rule, scope of work rule, and multiple violations of standard rules 1 and 2, as well as state statutes. Possible violations include 1210-613-1B, 1210-613-1G, scope of work rule, record-keeping rule, as well as standard rules 1 and 2 as identified, and board rule 11.2. Disciplinary recommendation includes diversion, coursework and residential sales comparison and income approaches, comparative analysis and or supporting adjustments, residential property inspections for appraisers, reliable record keeping, a work product review of 4 appraisals in 2 months, and a fine of $1,000. And Investigator Wentz is here to answer your questions.
Hey, Rob Style, or sorry,
Scott.
Scott, I'm
Yes, sir.
sorry. I read through the whole thing and it was kind of dated reports that were submitted. And I know by Dodd-Frank, AMCs are required to report appraiser misconduct. But how did it feel when was it a retaliation, or did they just simply go back based on FHA and pulled all the FHA to see if somebody else inspected it?
I believe it was the actual latter.
Right.
Yeah, that they actually went back and that it just due to the fact that they were FHA loans, I believe that they went back and did like some sort of audit. I believe that Rocket Close or Rocket Mortgage, or excuse me, Amrock submitted Amrock LLC, which is submitted Rocket Close LLC. It's formerly known as Rocket Close. In a response back to me, stated that there were over 15 reports that were actually this way, but they'd only submitted 3 due for the actual complaint here with the state of Colorado, sir.
Do we know if those reports were non-FHA, so they didn't report them, or
That
did,
I'm not certain on, sir.
okay.
I did interview the respondent with her attorney and so forth, and she just actually the respondent actually stated that she'd actually relocated to Arizona, and she was under the impression that it would still be okay to have her assistant do the measurements and the photos. So, and I believe I stated that in the beginning of the actual the report. So the actual report or this actual complaint in my report actually covered, I believe it was 3 different properties. It was a property in Arvada, Aurora, and then actually one in Strasburg. And those are the 3 reports that were submitted over to us.
And the assistants were non-licensed at the time?
That is correct, sir. And there was a specific portion of the actual URAR where she actually did check that in fact that she did not do the physical inspections, but there is an actual part of the actual report that is a preformed part of the actual report that actually states that that the actual appraiser actually did the site inspection. There are certain types of appraisal reports. I believe it's the bifurcated and the hybrid appraisal that where you do send somebody out to do the inspection, but these were the FHA and appraisals, and obviously the respondent or the appraiser needs to be present on these types of reports, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wentz, this is Brent Goff. I have a question on the findings. Did you find any ethics violation in this matter?
That's kind of a big hurdle to actual cross as far as an ethics violation. As far as the reports being misleading, I mean, there's I believe that there's a huge definite or there's a discrepancy between a report actually being misleading and actual ethics violation is actually my understanding, just due to the fact that she actually did check the box that she wasn't present. I don't believe that we actually have the formulation for an actual ethics violation, sir.
Okay. Given the lack of ethics violation, I think I'd like to modify that fine. There's no prior discipline by this board on this licensee, so I'd like to modify that from $1,000 down to $500.
And just as a point of clarification, board members, this respondent was brought to you at a board meeting in November of 2024, and that resulted in a dismissal with education because some of these same concerns were addressed at that time in regards to the quality of the reporting the adjustments. And because it resulted in a dismissal, we didn't include it in the previous board action that's identified in the beginning of this report, but it does sound like it would be relevant information, and the disciplinary recommendation points to kind of a heightening of the discipline or a greater discipline in recognition of the fact that this person was already assigned coursework back in November of last year.
Okay. I think that it would be important to show those tracks on the previous board action that we assigned disciplinary education and dismissed the case. Can we put that in there on the investigative report as previous board action?
Are you asking if we can modify the existing report?
Right, to note that the board had required education in a previous case.
Since it's being discussed in the board meeting, I think that's a possibility. Can anybody weigh in and fact check me on if there's any concerns with modifying a report?
No, we can definitely add additional information that you would like to the report.
Okay.
And in that case, a $1,000 fine is appropriate.
Are you making a motion, Brett?
Yeah, I could make a motion that we modify the investigative report to add the fact that the board required discipline in a previous case in 2024, and then to accept the remainder of the findings.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yeah, Darius Y seconds.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Without hearing any further discussion, we will vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion passes. It looks like we do not have any licensing matters or ESP matters. The next meeting is scheduled for September 4th at 9 a.m. And I believe unless somebody has anything, we can adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Welcome again.
Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you.
Here.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, board members.